It's time for Ogre School. Let's get started.
Today's video is sponsored by Campbell's A to Z's Alphabet Soup. Stick around to find out about an exciting new offer at the end. I'm going to start with a question. What is research? That may sound simple, and you may think you already know, but many, if not most people, go about research all wrong. Research is about questions more than answers. Questions should drive everything you do. Some people do research to back up what they already believe. That is, they start with an answer they want and research to prove it. This is not good research. I would argue that it is not research at all. If you start with an answer, all you do is try to prove yourself right. You don't learn anything new, and you don't deal with the fact that you might have been wrong or misinformed, either completely or just in small ways. That is why, on the proposal assignment, I said not to pick something you were already an expert on. I also made you tell me what might change your mind to make sure you weren't completely set on what you think the answer is. If you already think you know the answer, you will find that answer, even if it isn't true. And you trick your mind into ignoring anything new or not what you wanted to hear. That arrogant so-and-so MC. He thinks he knows everything. How dare he tell me that the moon is just made out of rocks? I'll get me some evidence and show him. Time for my favorite search engine. See? I knew it. It's all lies. This guy right here says so. What else we got? Oh, wow. Cheddar? I always thought it was mozzarella. Or maybe a nice item. Stupid MC thinking the moon is rocks. Oh, look. This one's from Harvard. That proves I'm right. See? Harvard says it's history. What's this? A chemical analysis of moon rocks? Yeah, right. That site is obviously fake or a troll. I mean, how would you even study moon rocks when they don't exist? And how would you get them down here? MC clearly paid NASA off to keep the conspiracy going on. I'm too smart to fall for that. This is why you can't trust scientists. They're always saying I'm wrong. Nope. The fact that they say it is rocks just makes me realize how right I was all along. Besides, the votes are 3-1. The moon is cheese, and I have the evidence to prove it. Ooh. New superhero. That is not an appropriate way to research for this class, or in fact, for anything that matters. Real research is about questions. Yes, it is about answering them. But it is mostly about asking them, and more importantly, constantly coming up with new questions. When you research, you should end up with more questions than you started with. Real research means going out into unknown information without a good map. In other words, you won't just open a textbook and find all your answers laid out for you, like you might at school when you're being taught specific, predetermined information. No. You go out looking and see what you do or don't find. Since you can't know for sure what is in an article before you read it, there will inevitably be some hit and miss. Sometimes you will read an article that seemed promising, only to realize that it didn't actually help you that much. That will happen, and it is fine. It is part of research. Sometimes you'll read a 3-page article and find only one small paragraph that is helpful. That is fine. Sometimes you'll read an article because you think it might answer one question, and it turns out to answer several others you had. Good. What definitely should happen, a lot, is that as you read an article, the information and answers you find cause you to have new questions, and those questions help you decide what to read next. Real research takes time. It takes patience. And you don't always end up where you thought you would. This is one of the main reasons that we will spend most of the year just slowly reading about our topics before we get to the writing process. It gives you time to search, to learn, and to adapt and ask more and new questions as they come up. It gives you time to look into multiple aspects of your topic and to explore multiple ideas before you are asked to write about it. Keep in mind the opposite, though. If you go through the year and read little or no new information, when it comes time to write, you will not be able to express and defend an informed and nuanced opinion because you will not have asked the right questions. It might be that your first instinct for researching is just to go to Google and type in your topic or maybe browse a Wikipedia article. This is not how I want you to start. Later in the year, I will allow you to search via Google or other search engines, but not yet. As you know, there is a lot on the internet that isn't true, is misleading, or is a troll. You probably can spot bad or misleading websites if they talk about things you know a lot about. But it can be hard to tell when you're looking into a topic you know little about. So for now, I want you to not use Google as your research tool. After you have started to learn more about your topic, then we will discuss using the wide open internet. However, to start out, we will be using a more controlled environment. One valuable place to do research is a research database. This is a group of articles that have been collected and categorized. Through the district license, you have access to several of these. For the first several weeks, I will require you to find your readings from one of the following two databases: Gale's Opposing Viewpoints in Context and EBSCO. Both of these databases let you search for articles using whatever keywords you choose. In Google Classroom, I've added links to both in the Important Information section. If you see a screen like this asking for a username and password, the username is your school ID number, and the password is the last 4 digits of that ID number. Once you are in, you can search for articles to read. Remember what I said earlier. You won't find that one perfect article that has everything you need. Each week you will add a little more knowledge. I strongly recommend that when you read an article, you save it to Google Drive. Here's how to do that in Gale. Click on this icon. It may ask you to log into Google. Once you have, your article will be available in a directory on Google Drive called Gale Context Opposing Viewpoints, with an orange folder icon. You can now read and highlight the article on Google Drive. I will not grade whether or not you have highlighted and made notes, but you really should mark anything that might be important. Remember that you will read for several months before writing, so highlighting important things will make it easier on you when you try to go back and find quality evidence to use. Also, these databases get updated from time to time. Last year I had 2 students want to use evidence from an article they had read, but which was removed from the databases, and they couldn't. Saving it to Google Drive will avoid this problem. Each week, you will be asked to read at least one article and fill in a reflective journal. Please note the following. I will not take these late. Period. The reason for that is that research is not something that can be crammed into a short period of time. If you are not reading each week, reading a bunch on one day does not make up for that. One article a week is not a lot of homework, especially for an AP class. If you want the grade, you will do it on time. I'm usually lenient about turning things in late, but on this one assignment, I never am. The entire purpose of this assignment and of the PA is to have you reading a little each week, not trying to catch up late by reading a bunch all at once. The Reflective Journal is focused on questions. It asks what questions you hope to answer. It asks what new questions the article brings to mind. It asks what questions the article is trying to answer and how it answers them. It asks you how you feel about how they answer those questions. It also asks for some factual information about the article. All of these questions are designed to be simple. Please don't overthink them too much. Answer carefully and honestly, but don't overthink it. All right, guys, that sounds like everything except this word from today's sponsor. Kids love asking questions.
Why is the sky blue? Why are Cheetos orange? And why is the moon made of cheese?
And kids love spelling things with Campbell's Alphabet Soup. So isn't it time we combined those things? Available today, the Campbell's Alphabet Soup $DLC is available to buy. For only $5.99, you get 100 question mark noodles. Or pay $9.99 to get our DLC season pass and receive, in the future, the period and exclamation mark DLCs as well. And don't forget about the semicolon expansion pass, available exclusively to season pass purchasers. Get yours now!